I'm going to first continue on the topic of Kuchav Beis. I want to continue some of the Yesodis that get some tzedek trying to get to this sugya, and then continue to Sif Beis and Kuchav Beis, which is also important, but we'll mainly focus on what's relevant to Sif Aleph because the halachas cross each other. So I finished the shiur last time by mentioning that there is a tshuva from the Tzemach Tzedek and Siman Reish Pei Aleph. Because we discussed the previous tshuva of the Tzemach Tzedek about if a person that's not the husband rips up the get, is the get considered batel or not? So the next thing I wanted to discuss is if a shliach chooses to cancel his shlichus. I mentioned with the I'm just going to go into this nekuda and then continue weiter. That minui shlichus is a dibur, but minui shlichus means to tell the husband. The husband tells the shliach to deliver a get. The minui is bedibur, but there's a maisa attached to the dibur, which means when you have a dibur, you could cancel a dibur with a dibur. When you have a maisa, you can't just cancel a maisa with a dibur. So when the husband appointed the shliach to become a shliach to deliver the get, and also gave him the get, so he made a dibur with a maisa. So when the shliach then says something which retracts his acceptance of being a shliach, it's only a dibur. It's not a maisa. So how is it possible that we know the halacha that a shliach could do it? So how does it work? So the Masech over there explains in Reish Pei Aleph, specifically Nois Gimel. But Bichlal he says that it's that in this scenario, because it's attached to him personally, so he could back off from what he's supposed to do. And in Ois Gimel, he goes and he says, and what happens if the shliach retracts his retraction? That means he changes his mind and he says, you know what I said is not clear. I want to go back to do what I have to do. I want to go back to being to do my shlichus. And the Meshaleach, the husband, doesn't even know that the shlichus was canceled because he sent the get. It was the days before cell phones or even telegraph. And he didn't know that the shliach decided to change his mind. So, for all its purposes, mitzad the husband, there's no asur shlichusam, and there's no nisbatel. The husband didn't cancel anything. So, could the shliach then go and say, you know what? I changed my mind. I want to go back to being a shliach. So, the Tzemach Tzedek clearly says you need another minui from the husband. And there is no shlichus whatsoever until he gets a second minui from the husband. And this actually fits with the reason why I'm mentioning it in this siman, even though minui shlichus is much later, is because the get pashut, not the get pashut, I mean the teras gitin in this siman, the teras gitin I mentioned in the previous shiur, the teras gitin Sifkot Gimel, where he discusses if they could rip out, where he says that the shliach, that if the Eidim rip up the get themselves, then they are mevatel their own shlichus and they need a new minui. But if it gets ripped up, not mitzad the Eidim, it's not a minui. That's how I got into this whole discussion of the Tzemach Tzedek. So, which means that he looks at it, Teres Gittin looks at it, that if you do a action, if the people who are appointed to do it, do an action to cancel their appointment, as opposed to the get pashut that says it's mutter, then that shows that the whole shlichus is cancelled. So it's mashma from the get pashut. Obviously the same thing will apply if a shliach retracts from it. So in the Tziyunim ve'aris to the Machan Yerushalayim Teres Gittin, they point out that the Tzemach Tzedek and Reish Pei Aleph paskins like the Teres Gittin. But you already know from 2 days ago, that Tzemach Tzedek does not paskin like a Teres Gittin, because Tzemach Tzedek goes into the whole discussion of ripping up a get but which is not done by the husband, does work or doesn't work. So that's why I wanted to bring this up. But he says that he has to get a second minui before he's able to deliver the get. And Reish Pei Beis, Tzemach Tzedek repeats it's a shorter tshuva, which seems to be a continuation to the tshuva in Reish Pei Aleph. It's more like a psak rather than a tshuva. And that Tzemach Tzedek also says the same thing, that he needs a new minui. However, he adds that even though usually by a minui the husband has to give the get to the shliach, over here where he's doing a second minui, he doesn't have to give the get again to the shliach. He doesn't have to take it and give it back to him. Take it and give it back to him. That is from Siman Reish Pei Aleph. Now let's move on to another tshuva from the Tzemach Tzedek. It's in Siman Kuf Samach Daled. Siman Kuf Samach Daled, Tzemach Tzedek is talking about a get which the husband said were appointed to write and to sign and to send and everything. And they wrote and they signed and they sent it and everything was good. But the paper or the ink was shvach. And when it came to the place, it became geflossen. Whoever learned Tilchas Safras knows what it is, but if not, it's in Gitin, it's very common. Geflossen means that the ink spread out. And now the letters are touching. It's not clear what the letters were. And the people who sent the Sefer and the Eidim, they want to send a new get to the shliach. The husband is nowhere to be found. All is lost. Shaila is, could they write a second get? And the first 5 oisias of Siman Reish Kuf Samach Daled, which is Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Daled, Hey, all of them are just explaining why the original get is kosher, even when it's the way it's geflossen. And Ois Vav, he goes into a very interesting discussion. Could you, geflossen, it's in Yiddish. Gimel Yud Fei Lamed Aleph Samach Nun. It's with a Yud, it's spelled with a Yud, but it's pronounced geflossen. Nois Vav discusses the second get, and the first question that Tzemach Tzedek deals with is, could you appoint a shliach to do the same thing that somebody was already appointed to do? That means, the first get was sent by a shliach. Could you now go write a new get and give it to a shliach that he should deliver the get? Means, could a shliach, you say there's like a shaila in shlichus, could somebody be appointed to do something that somebody else was already appointed to do? And he says, being that the two were appointed to do the same exact ma'aseh, and it's not so mufrach that the first shlichus is not going to be fulfilled. Yeah, it means it's not mufrach. It's not common because you're not expecting it the get to get burnt or to get ripped or to get lost. But and even those that hold that one minui one minui shlichus cancels the previous minui shlichus, it's not when it's the same exact ma'aseh. So over here, the fact you could write the fact that you could write a second get, he says that's Tzemach Tzedek seems to say that it's not a problem based on this. But even mimana the next shliach to deliver the second get is also fine. Why? Because what did the husband appoint? He didn't give the actual get in the hand. What's the ma'aseh? The ma'aseh is to be megarish this woman. It's the same exact ma'aseh. So by appointing a second person to do the same action, you're not canceling the first appointment. What you're just doing is you're just adding somebody else to do the same action, and that doesn't cancel the first one. Therefore, he says there a second get that could be written. And one svara. It's the first svara is that it's one ma'aseh, so the second minui can't cancel the first minui if it's done for the same exact ma'aseh. So therefore, you could do it. Then he says over here that the get still was not given to her. B'chlal. That means the shliach le'ilacha had the get and brought it to the Rav, and the Rav was the one who chapped it as a problem. So this whole discussion is irrelevant. Because the Lashon of Tzemach Tzedek Hadayin Eine Gmar Ma'aseh. The first Ma'aseh was never completed. And everything is one thing. So therefore, being that the shlichus that was given is a shlichus to be megadish this woman, and not a specific shlichus to deliver this get, so therefore, appointing a second shliach is for sure not a problem. Because what these guys were appointed was write a get, sign a get, and give it to a shliach to divorce this woman. So their ma'aseh was never finished. It was never also shlichusim completely. That's what the Tzemach Tzedek explains in Siman Kuf Samach Dalet towards the end, that's not the ikar of the tshuva. It's just one part of it.
So what do they want to prove based on this?
They could sign a second get, and they could send it with a new shliach, and it's not a problem. It's not a problem, b'chlal. Well, what happens if he appoints a shliach and he gives two?
Who appointed the second shliach? He appointed the second shliach?
No, he gave the Sefer and the Eidim, he gave them all the responsibility to do everything. And he walked off, disappeared. And he told them, you guys write a get, you guys sign a get, you guys give the get to a shliach, and you guys make sure that the get gets to her.
You don't have to the Sefer is making a shliach.
Sefer, he was appointed by the husband to make a shliach, to give it to a shliach.
It's still the first shliach. It's not where the first shliach is.
The first shliach halacha, which is already a different town. No, the Sefer is operating on behalf of the husband. The Sefer is operating on behalf of the husband. Otherwise, there's no get. The Sefer, when he's writing the get, when he's giving the get to the shliach halacha, he's doing it on behalf of the husband. Otherwise, there's no v'nasan. Obviously, there's a shlichus over here. So what he says is the Sefer and the Eidim, they had responsibility to deliver, to make sure a kosher get is delivered. So their shlichus was never completed yet because there was no Goren Ma'aseh, and therefore the Sefer and the Eidim could go and deliver a new get. In Siman Reish Samach Zayin, Tzemach Tzedek goes into a little bit slightly different discussion. What happens if the shliach is appointed to two things which seem to contradict each other, two separate minuyim? There's something called a get. There's something called a shliach halacha. There's something called shliach kabbalah. Yeah, and there's something that's called somebody who's zoicha a get for a woman. What is shliach halacha? Shliach halacha is that the husband appoints somebody and tells him, "You deliver this get to my wife." Shliach kabbalah is the wife appoints somebody and says, "You pick up the get for me. You receive the get for me, not pick it up. You receive the get for me." Shliach kabbalah is the shliach of the husband. Shliach kabbalah is the shliach of the wife. Shliach halacha is the shliach of the husband. What's a zikui? Zikui is when the wife is not there, and al pi halacha you can be mezakeh her a get. One of the examples is when she's a mumeres and she's living with a guy. So therefore, so that she shouldn't be. It's still a isur, but in such a case we say it's a schus hula. Usually, when a get is not a schus, not a schus. Why is a get not a schus? Because tav lemeitav, it's better to sit with somebody than to, even if he's mukashchin or whatever it is, than to sit with nobody. But over here, that she's already a moment and she's living with somebody else, so there's a zikui. So what happens to say that if the get zikui, the guy is zoiche for it for the wife. What happens if the husband tells the guy, here's a get, deliver it to my wife, and then he tells him, I want you to be zoiche for it for my wife. These two are contradicting each other. One is he has to go deliver it to somebody, and one is he's accepting it on behalf of somebody. Same person. The question is, which shlichus catches? Tzemach Tzedek says we have a suffix. The first one catches, the second one catches. Is he zoiche or is he shliach le'elacha? Ultimately, the same guy could be mekayim both shlichusin. He could be zoichet, and then he could deliver it to her. And the Tzemach Tzedek over there says it seems like if there is the second one is not a stira to the first one, complete stira, and the way that the husband said it, it does not imply that he changed his mind and retracted the first one. Then what you say is that whatever he said first is what counts. That means if he said first halacha, then that's what counts. If he first said zikui, then that's what counts. And the second one is chaspa b'alma. Or he meant do one and then do the other. But that means that not only do we say that that's over here, you could have two competing minuyim, and the shlichus could be fulfilled if it's done, if it's properly said. Now we'll move to another tzemach tzedek.
So you have to go to the first one, right? You have to do it all. You
You can't
can't do
do either. No, he says maybe you could do both. Tzemach tzedek says the first one is the one that's valid, or maybe if it's possible to do both. If they don't contradict each other. Over here they do contradict each other, so you have to go with the first one.
Why they contradict?
Because acquiring something for somebody doesn't mean that you're delivering something to somebody.
It could be he's saying either or.
No, there's no either or. There's no either or. When I tell you to go pick up something for me from one store, and then I tell you to go pick up something from a different store, the same exact product, and I only want one, then obviously I'm chayzer from the first one. For whatever reason, I decided I'm going to send you to a different store. If I tell you, bring me something, I plan to bring me something, and then I tell you, pick it up and keep it. It's a stira. So pick it up and keep it. Zeicha for my wife. Doesn't mean deliver it. The way it's done is first the guy is zeicha for the wife. Person zeicha. Usually we do it to separate people. Person zeicha. Then the husband takes it back, and then he appoints a shliach leilacha. But not together.
No, but if he's not going to so then you can't do the first one.
If he's chayzer, then we only take for the second one. If the second one is the one if the second one is clear that it's chayzer from the first one, then you go after the second one.
So you said should do the first one, you should do it alone.
Because over here it's not soiser, and it's clear that he wasn't chayzer by. Because this person is a shtickle, he understood that you do both things. Everybody knows that you do both things. Whoever deals with it knows you do both things. He pushed the husband didn't chapsich that he has to do it two separate times. Yeah. Now,
if you would say that either or, then it would be a time.
Yeah. Now let's go to two more tshuvos in the tzemach tzedek, and I'm going to deal with a different topic, also connected to this. If you remember, I mentioned in the beginning that the get pashut says about a shinui. When the get pashut, right in the beginning of the get pashut, he discusses what the svara of how can you say that how do we know from the Gemara that a get pasul that's kosher midiraisa we still say also shlichusam. So l'chayra it's only a deiraisa because shinu shem is deiraisa. And why in derabban and how do you know derabbanan? So he says a chaspa derabbanan is also a chaspa. If you remember, I mentioned it. It's two tshuvos from the tzemach tzedek, but the tzemach tzedek completely disagrees with this get pashut. One tshuva is in Siman Reish Lamed Gimel, and one tshuva is in Siman Reish Chavav. Let's start with Reish Lamed Gimel. Then we'll go to Reish Chavav. Even though Al Piseder you're supposed to do Chavav before Lamed Gimel, we're going to do it. Reish Lamed Gimel is Gimel. Yeah, it's a tshuva was about a get which was supposed to have the name Idia for the woman, and it is spelled it Ida, or in English it would be Ida, but that would be. And he mentions in Ois Gimel that the get pashut says that a change of one letter from the Gemara is not a shinui, it's not really such a shinui apostle. But the tzemach tzedek says when the Gemara says chaspa, and he brings a raya for it, say here in Sayin Reish Chavav, chaspa must be chaspa midaraisa, not chaspa midarabbanan. It's hard to say that something which is valid, cheres means it has absolutely no value. Something which has value, midaraisa which is megoreshes, only midivur sefer mitzchaspa, is not a good thing. So therefore, tzemach tzedek says no, really. The shinui in the Gemara that made it into a chaspa was a shinui deraisa. And changing one letter is a shinui shem, which is mideraisa possible. And that was the first question of the Gemara, and that's why they use the word chaspa, not like the get pashut. You have a tshuva from the Alter Rebbe and a bunch of other ones that say that when you have a shinui from gerashoim to gerashoin, it's not completely batel. That is because over there's reasons, because maybe the difference is not so clear between gerashoim and gerashoin, or maybe because gerashoin is a kinui to gerashoim. But if it's a big shinui, or it's not a common nickname, then it's possible midiraisa. It's bottle midiraisa, not possible. It's bottle midiraisa. And that's why from nafata to tafata, it's bottle, not possible. It's bottle. And he repeats, you can't say chaspa on something which is possible only midirabanan. But Poyel Tzemach then goes into a whole lengthy arichus why in this specific name, from missing the yud from idia to ida, it's still kosher. But not because of the svara of the get pasha that shinui one letter makes it only, it's only a derabanan, not a deraisa. But then we stuck with the questions, how did all the poskim know that even by a get pasul, not bottle, we still say also shlichutן. And that the Tzemach Tzedek gets in the next, in Reish Chavav. That's why I put Reish Lamagimah for Reish Chavav. Reish Chavav, Tzemach Tzedek again goes through, brings the get pashut. It says it doesn't make sense to say chaspa as a pasul, only psul midirabanan, mutar midiraisa. It says, all the poskim say that a pasul midirabanan. Also, we don't say also shlichutן. We say that they didn't do the shlichus yet. And therefore, we can write a new get. He says it's not because of chaspa. It's based on nevad. By nevad, there was a kosher get. And that's why in the Shaila of Nevad in the Gemara clearly says Gita Malia, a good get. And over there, why did the Gemara have to say Gita Malia, a good get? To tell you that if it would be possible with Rabbanon, it wouldn't be Gita Malia. It would be a get that's kosher, but not Malia. Malia is good, Malia can also mean useful, right? So therefore, even though it's kosher, it's something which is possible midirabanan, it's kosher midiraisa, being that it's not a gita malia, we still say lo yasu shlichutן. And that only from the story of Nevad, is from where the poskim learned, when the Gemara learned that also by a get possible we say lo yasu shlichutן. But if it comes to a shinui of one letter, it's batel legamre midiraisa. And again, he says over here the same thing that the Alter Rebbe holds the same way also. So now it goes into a whole different question. I'm not going to get into it now. How to be mater this woman which already received the get with the name. The name was supposed to be spelled Mayenke, and it was missing one letter. They changed one letter over there. So that's it goes the whole thing that we do, and it gives two svaras. I'm not going to go into it; it's completely not relevant to the siman. One is mitzad that in such a case when she already has the get in her hands, and she could get married, and the get only has such a shinui. Maybe it's mitzad medina, and medina in such a case medina afkeina or medina zilus to bedina. I'm not going to get into it now. It's not. It's a topic which is not directly connected to this. True, Reish Chavav. Reish Lamed Gimel is with the first one, and Reish Chavav is the second one. Now, Lemaisa, how do we deal with such a thing when it comes to a get, not a get shlichus, a regular get? So you look and say that a get of the Maramri, say the get rishon, siman tzadik zayin. If you find a psul that causes it that you have to do a new get, even if it's possible vadai when we say lo yasu shlichusam, still you need that the husband should reappoint a sofer and edim. The Kavnaki in Sifkot 9 Gimel says this is only if the husband is here in front of us. Then you can ask him. What happens if the husband left because he appointed and walked out? The Kavnaki tells you, look and say that get shmini siman lamed vav Sifkot Yudches. Over there he brings in the Knesset Agdela. Knesset Agdela also has a Seder Aget, and Knesset Agdela divided it as one of the chalokim of the Seder Aget of the Knesset Agdela is called Ma'aser Rav, the responsibilities of the rabbi. And over there in Oismim Dalet, the Knesset Agdela says, if the husband is not here, the Rav is to be the one who tells, to give the reshus to make to write another get. Because over there, it was, the minui of the shlichus was, the lashon is, Achi get male גיטין, Achi get echad kosher, also das Rav Mesader. So the Rav Mesader is the one who should determine that this get is possible. The husband is not here. Lo yasu shlichusam is a given, but because we still need reshus, lachatchila, so the Rav should be the one to give reshus.
To make it new shlichus, not to
Yeah. Now, we did mention another thing from the Get Pashut, that if the husband changes his name intentionally, Shino Shmoy, and to mess it up for the wife, then we say Aser Shlichusam. And it's not considered a tos if they afterwards found out that this guy's name is not Yosef, but it's Shmuel, or his name, or his father's name, whatever it is. Obviously, this is talking about when he knows his name, and he knows his father's name. Today, when you go to a get, a lot of times people have no idea what their Jewish name is. They're not sure. Or they got one name with the bris, and they got one name with the bar mitzvah, and they have no idea, either or. And for sure they don't know their father's Jewish name, or their shver's Jewish name. So now you're going to say that if we wrote a get and it wasn't isbared, or if the husband walked out, and then you called up the shver, and the father finally picked up the call, and you discovered that his name is different. Now you're going to write a separate name. Are we going to say that Karasu Shlichusim or not? So if you look in Kovetz Al Yad, which is from the Mesader Gitin in Baltimore, Chelik Aleph, we wrote a biur on this siman. So on the artist to the biur, it's called Yadayim Echichos and Sifkot Aleph. Over there, he says that the svara is we don't say Karasu Shlichusim in such a scenario. Right? And that, soon we're going to see, it fits into a certain place. And he says, you're going to have a shaila. Somebody's going to say, the husband appointed the shlichus. When he read the whole nusach haget, he says, give a get for me, pliny ben pliny, to give to my wife, pliny's bas pliny. Then his shlichus was only on these specific names, and not on any other names. So therefore, how can you say that lo yasu shlichusam? How can you say they even fulfill the shlichus, or they even could do the shlichus? Their shlichus was only for these names, even though it was an honest mistake and not an intentional mistake. So he says, he tells you, he sends you to look at another sefer. Another sefer is called Meir Einei Chachamim, which we also have downstairs, from Rav Volhandler. He also wrote, from this generation. And over there he says that the Meir Einei Chachamim brings you two reasons why in such a case is fine, two rayas. One is Ginzei Chayim, in Mareches Get Siman Aleph, where he says that if there's a need to change the name, lechatchile, the husband should give another appointment to the sefer when the name is changed.
Who writes this?
The Ginzei Chayim, Chaim Falaji, yeah, I think so. Get Siman Aleph. So the Meir Einei Chachamim says, "Mash mafrid," but you have this kasha. Also brings from Shas Teshuvos Shem Aryeh Siman Memches, that if you change to remove a name from the father's name, is not considered a change of shlichus, because the woman is still the same woman. So the minui was to give a get to this woman. So the fact that you're going to remove her father's name or change her father's name, whatever it is not considered a shinu. Those are the two rayas that the Einei Chachamim Sefer Meir Einei Chachamim brings to explain why. B'diavad, these two reasons, b'diavad, if you change and you don't have the husband, then you could do it. Yeah, and he concludes in Kovetz Al Yad that he saw by Rabbi Rottenberg that you always ask the husband reshus to change, and if the husband is leaving, you ask him in the minui to give reshus to the husband to give reshus to the Rav to change the names in the get. Now I saw Rabbi Rottenberg also a lot of times in the nusach of the minui sai for kisvut nu sai for nechpaz, there's a line over there. I also give permission to Rabbi Rottenberg, who's the Mesader of the get, to change, add or remove any part of my name, my father's name, my wife's name, or her father's name. So then, the minui shlichus includes a minui to the Rav that he has a reshus to do such a thing, and then you avoid all the problems. If the husband is there, obviously the chatchili you're going to ask him again to do it. Now, but this idea goes back. It's a little bit older machlekes. The sefer called Get Mekusher. There's a bunch of them. This one's from Rav Navon, Amud Mem Daled. He writes bepshitus that like the second svara, that they can't, the shlichus is specifically to these names, and if not, it's over. He is said to give a get to this woman, Bas Yosef Avraham. That's the shlichus. And you're giving it to this woman, Bas Yosef. It's not the shlichus. But if you look in Pnei Yeshua, Even Ezer Chelik Beis Siman Pei Beis, he writes, Mamash Mitapshitus Faket. You could change the names, the Rabban could change the names, you don't need a new tzivui. And the Pnei Yeshua is talking about the father of the woman. Yeah, and in such a case, he says you don't need a new tzivui. The Marsham Chelik Gimel Siman Tzadik Ches takes it even further. He says, in changing the name of the husband, you don't even need a new tzivui. The pshitas. And the reason for it is the same logic. The minui shlichus was deliver a get from, write a get for me to give to her. So the fact that I said a name, if it's not, that means the get pashut says the get pashut. That if you know that the guy knows his name and he intentionally messed it up, that's something else. Because then your shlichus was to mess up the woman. But in any other scenario where it's a mistake, we say the shlichus was deliver a kosher get to her. So if you have to change a name, if you have to change something, it's fine. It's not a problem. Now let's move to Sif Beis and go through some nekudas in Sif Beis. Sif Beis. So before we get Sif Beis, let's go back to the Gemara. The Gemara over there, after we have a discussion that we have that by Nevad we don't say also shlichusim because that's why you say you can write even up to 100 gitin. Rav Nachman says that, comes the Gemara and continues and says maskif l'Rav Rav Nachman. Rav asks a question to Rav Nachman. If the husband didn't say kisvu v'chismu tnu get leishti, he says kisvu v'chismu or tnu l'shliach. Give it to the shliach to deliver to her. And they wrote, and they signed, and they gave to the shliach, and then it got lost in the hands of the shliach. What's the din? Do we say kvarosu shlichusam because they already gave a kosher get to the shliach? Or we say, being that he didn't want to bother them, so therefore he said, give it to the shliach. But his intention is that they are in charge of this project until it's completed. The kasha, the Gemara is not machriya. Give it to shliach, but he appointed them, he told them what to do. Like part of the process is, I don't want to bother you to travel to the net, to travel when... Shliach, yeah. Then Ravina asks Rav Ashi, it's a couple generations later, it's also in the Gemara, right afterwards, if he says kisvu tnu l'shliach ve'yoylich la, and he should be the one to bring it to her, do we still say also shlichusam if it's or we say shlichusam or not? Maybe svara is being that he described to them the whole process. His idea was that they should specifically go and make sure that this whole process is taken care of until ve'yoylich la, until it gets to her hands. Or not, maybe not. And the Gemara remains in Teiku. The way I just explained it to you is all according to Rashi. That Rava and Ravina's kasha was regarding Nevad, not Nifsam. And the question is if they did their shluchas or not. The Rif discusses a whole different. Says this whole question is about whether the Edom themselves could bring her the get or not. Both shilas of the Gemara, Sai Rava to Rav Nachman and Sai Ravina to Rav Ashi, was nothing to do with Nevad, nothing to do with Nifsal, nothing to do with any of these things. It's a simple question. They tell the husband tells these people, give it to a shliach, give it to a shliach v'yoylech la. Does that mean that the husband is not letting them do it? Does that mean that they have to find somebody to give it to her? What happens if she's going to show up in the Beis Din 3 hours later and they're still there? Now we have to find somebody else and put him into the place. And that was a shaila of Rava. Do we say that tein l'shliach, v'tnu l'shliach means specifically wants tnu l'shliach? Or just he wants to make the life easy on them? And that was also the question of Ravina, that if he said v'yoydich lo, tnu l'shliach v'yoydich lo, would he specifically wanted these people to do it or not? And that's how the Rif explains it in the Gemara. And in the Tshuva, the Rif changes his mind and explains the Rashi. And the Itur also explains the Rashi. This is all from the Beis Yosef. The Rambam has a totally different way to deal with it. How does the Rambam explain in Perek Beis Halacha Tes that Rava and Ravina are it's a hemshech to what Rav Nachman said about Nevad. If they gave it to a shliach, and he said kisvu v'chismu tnu and everything, and they gave it, and the get now was found to be posel or bottle. Not that the get got lost. The get is posel or bottle. Then you have to ask, the shaila is you have to ask the husband again or not. Why? Because he did not make them shluchim lahilacha. And he wanted that they should write and give a get to the shliach to bring to her. And if they wrote again, without a tzivu, when they gave it to her, she's megureshes. She's suffering megureshes, because we're not sure, because that's the shaila in the Gemara. Don't worry about it. The shaila in the Gemara. That's according to the Rambam. So it's a shaila by nimtza that when you give it to a shliach and nimtza posel a bottle, is there a problem or not? But according to Rashi, Memshech to nifsal, yeah, not nevad. Yeah. So according to the Rambam, the shaila is if nifsal when it was given to a shliach, do we say also shlichusim or not? According to Rashi, it's pretty clear. The Beis Yosef says it's pretty clear according to Rashi that if a get was found to be bottle or posel after it was given to a shliach, according to there's no shaila b'chlal to Rava that you could write a new get le'asu shlichusam. Why? He didn't tell him to give a chaspa b'alma. Yeah, told him to do it. There's no difference whether he appoints them to give the get to her or whether he appoints them to give the get to a shliach to give to her. The chaspa remains a chaspa whether it goes through one hand or goes through 10 hands. It makes no difference, according to Rashi. Only by Nevad is a shaila of Rava to Rav Nachman to Ravina, because over there the get is kosher, and the get was done. And since it says Tnu l'shliach or Tnu l'shliach v'yoylech lo, do we say that they also shlichusim the moment they deliver the kosher get? But according to the Rambam, that's the way Rashi looks at it. The Rambam, no. The Rambam, it's the shaila of chaspa is maybe only when he tells them make sure the job is fully completed. Maybe if etnu l'shliach or etnu l'shliach v'yoylech lo means that he wants to make sure that the job is complete, and then it comes out that it's a problem, that it's possible. So then, if he wanted them to be the full job, that's the shaila of Ravina or of Rava. Did he want them to do a full job from beginning to end, and therefore, if it turns out to be chaspa, they could redo it, or not, because he added another layer to it. That means this is not your responsibility to make sure it's not chaspa be'alma. Your responsibility expires at some point. So therefore it's a when it gives a shliach, it's not therefore according to the Rambam. If you give a get kosher and it got lost, according to the Rambam, it's pasha that also shlichusim by nevad. And if they write a new get, it's bottle. But only by a nifsal, by a shliach nifsal, that's a shayla. Nifsal by giving to a shliach. According to Rashi, if it's possible, it's for sure le'asu shlichusim. If it's neva, that's the question. The Tur paskins like Rashi, and therefore he writes that she's suffik megureshes in such a scenario. If they write a new get in accordance with Rashi, when only in the case of nevad. That's pretty much the majority of the Beis Yosef as summarized by the Mikvah Rabbi. The Mechaber seems to...
Only by Nevad, did he have the Rashi of Allah what?
Rashi holds, by Nifsal after it came to the hands of the Shliach, it's for sure not a problem. You could still write a new one, because Chaspa Ba'alma applies the whole time. Nifsal for sure is not a problem. The only question is by Nevad. According to the Rambam, by Nevad for sure also Shlichusam. By Nifsal it's a Shaila. The Mechaber writes, if someone tells Kisvu v'chismu tenu l'shliach v'yoylech la, and then it's found to be possible or batal, which is what the Rambam says, you can't write a new get until the husband gives permission. And if they wrote a new get and gave it to her, she's safek megureshes, pretty much like the Rambam. Comes the Beis Shmuel, it's a long Beis Shmuel, but I'm only going to deal with one element of it and ask a question. The Mechaber didn't even mention what happens if we don't say v'yoylech la. Mechaber doesn't say. By the Tur, from the Tur it's mashma that if he did not say v'yoylech, just says kisvu v'chismu tnu l'shliach, their shlichus expires the moment it comes to the hands of the shliach, and therefore they're no longer shluchim past that stage, and they can't write a new get. The Beis Yosef says no, it's a suffix. Yeah, that's how the Beis Shmuel says. The Taz says no. The Beis Yosef, the Tur.
How does Beis Shmuel answer? By
he says, he just mentions to you, it says the Mechaber, the Tur holds one way. The Tur holds that Bevada, they're not considered, that their shluchus only goes until it comes to the hands of the shliach. And the Beis Yosef holds that even that itself is also a suffix. But the Taz says no. Taket's vada that it's not that it's not a shaila. And even Rava, the Taz explains,
I'm not getting the Beis Shmuel. According to Beis Shmuel, the Mechaber passed like grammar, yeah?
Yes.
If he says v'yoylech la, it's a suffix, yeah?
If he doesn't say v'yoylech la, so he says tu, and he says the Tur says that vaday their shluchus expired when it gets to the hands of the shliach, and therefore they can't write a new get if they don't say v'yoylech la.
Tur says that by Nisal is not a problem, right?
Yeah, but this is a Tur explaining that shitta.
The Tur explaining the Rambam.
Yeah, so that's what it seems like from yeah.
So the Tur when
and the Beis Yosef says no. It's not Vada. Even here, that's the Shiloh of the Gemara.
So when the Torah explained the Rambam, he explained that side by Shliach.
I'll read you the Torah 1 second. You see it's all clear. The Tur says, and the Tur says the Tur follows Shittas Rashi. If he says Kisvu v'chismu tnu l'shliach, and then there was Nevad, not Nifsal, but Nevad, they're not shluchim until it gets to the hands of the shliach. Shittas Rashi. By Nevad, if he says Yoylech la, then it's Safek Megureshes.
So he says,
they can't write a new one. It's Vada, you can't write a new one because the shluchus expired when it's Nevad, by Nevad. Because that's how he explains the Gemara. The Beis Yosef over there says on it, it's not Vada. Even when he does not say V'yoylech, it's still a suffix according to this, even according to the Torah. The reason that Beis Shmuel brings it here is to discuss if you follow the Shitta of the Rambam, the Beis Yosef ultimately didn't didn't mention it by nifsal. What's the din if he doesn't say v'yoylech by nifsal? And he explains that according to the Beis Yosef, if he doesn't say v'yoylech, if he doesn't say v'yoylech, and then afterwards it became possible or batal, it's still a suffix.
It's not like the apostle.
Yeah, it's still a suffix.
Not like the Torah.
No. The Torah is talking about nevad, but the Beis Shmuel is applying it to this one also. Why? Because ultimately the Gemara still remains in the Teiko. The Gemara remains in the Teiko and we don't know what's going on, so we leave everything in the Teiko. And the Beis Shmuel actually concludes that Lamaise, we follow that even if he does not say v'yoylech, it still remains a suffix, regardless of which shita you're going to follow. Now, why does what's the logic? Why we mentioned that the logic of the Rambam? Why when he says tenu law, when he says tenu l'shliach, it's a suffix. He says because according to the Rambam, we're not sure if it's if he appointed them to make sure it's not going to be a chaspa b'alma. When he says tenu law, it's clear that he didn't want it to be a chaspa. When he says tenu l'shliach, according to the Rambam, it's a shaila if he cared about the chaspa, if they cared about the chaspa or not. The Rama over here continues as Yeshayimrim, and he brings the shitta of the Tur and Rashi, that always if it's an apostle, batal apostle, you write a new get without asking. Only if it's nevad from the hands of the shliach, then suffix megureshes. Why only suffix megureshes? Because over there, the Chalkas Mechagig right away explains in such a scenario when the shliach lost it and there was a kosher get, he appointed the shliach to deliver a get, not the get, a get. Because he told them to give it to the shliach. He didn't give the get to the shliach. He told the Eidim and the Sefer, make sure the shliach brings it to her. So therefore he appointed them to bring a get. Since he appointed them to bring a get, we don't know if also shlichusam or not by nevad. Because mitzad echad you could say also shlichusam, because he got lost. Mitzad sheni you could say because it was given to the shliach and then it got lost. Mitzad sheni you could say lo also shlichusam because it didn't actually get to her hands.
What's this for also shlichusam? What's this for also shlichusam? This get? Because it might be this get? What's this for also shlichusam?
Because they gave a good get and they got lost.
They didn't give any get? They got lost after they got their hands?
No, got lost in the shliach's hands.
So you say he told them to give a get to the shliach?
Yeah. And then Ramah says, if the husband gave the get to the shliach, that means the Sefer and the Eidim wrote, and then the husband appointed the shliach to deliver the get, and then it became a problem, then for sure we say also shlichusam, and you can't write a new get. Why? Because over there, they made him a shliach, he made this guy a shliach to give this get, specific get. And even though he tells him, you write until Meo Gitin v'chulu in the whole nusach, you still can't make a new shliach to bring a new get to the woman. Because the husband was the one who gave the first get, and that his shlichus was to this shliach to give this get. And if now the Sefer and the Eidim would technically have the right to continue writing more Gitin because it would have been Nevad, they don't have the right to continue giving, to appoint a new shliach. So it's not because they had their shlichus expired, also shlichusam, it's because practically they can't do anything with it. They were never told to bring it to her because the husband was the one who gave it to shliach, so you can't do anything about it. But if the husband tells the shliach when he gives him the get, I'm appointing you to bring up to 100 gittin until one is kosher, then for sure the Sefer and the Eidim would still have their shlichus in place, because we pass on like Rashi, that's what it says until Nevad. They could. That works. That's what the Darkei Moshe. That's where he writes in Darkei Moshe. The Chagam and the Beis Shmuel bring it over here. The get Pashut and Sifkot and Yud says, even though he wants to support the shit of the Beis Yosef, the Rambam. He asks questions on the Beis Yosef. He says, ultimately we have a problem. We have machlokes rishonim. How to understand this? Therefore, since we have a machlokes rishonim, we have to be machmer both ways. Say like the Rambam / the Mechaber, say like Rashi / Tur / the Ramah. Whether it got lost from the hand of the shliach, that you can't write a new one without the husband's approval, whether nimtza pasul a bottle after it was given to a shliach. But it's only if it's nimtza vaday pasul. If it's safek pasul, he says, don't write a second get and give it to her. And give her 2 gitin. But then he comes with a svara. He says, maybe you could give a second. You could do it. Why? Because you have a svek sveika. What's a svek sveika over here? First safek if the get is kosher apostle. Why? Because it's only safek apostle. Where it was given to a shliach and it was found to be apostle. Second safek, do we pass like Rashi, do we pass like the Rambam? If it's vadei apostle, and we pass like Rashi, for sure could write a new one. If it's vadei kosher, then writing a second one's not going to be a problem. That's why you give both. If it's, you have a svek sveika, so you have a svek sveika, it's only suffix, because as he says, vadei you have a problem. But if it's suffix, then you have 2 sveikas over here. You should be able to do it. He says the only person this is not going to work with is according to Rabbeinu Yerucham, and the basis already took apart the Rabbeinu Yerucham. Now, he brings also the Erech Lechem, the Mari Castro, who he says that if the husband uses the lashon kisvu v'chisvu tnu l'shliach v'chulu v'chulu, ad shetisgaresh l'garesh b'es ishti, or kedei shetisgaresh ishti. That means he added extra words that weren't in the original one. Then you could write a new get. The Erech Lechem says the Kuli Alma, you could write a new get, even by Shliach, even by Nevad. Why? Because it says Kadesh Tisgaresh. He specified what the purpose of it is. Because what's the shlichus that they were given? This whole team, Shetisgaresh. And Shetisgaresh wasn't fulfilled yet. And he also says that if you have a suffix pasul, you could for sure write a new one. The get pasha says, I'm not comfortable with what the Erech Lechem says. And he says, the Erech Lechem, the Mari Castro, yeah? That's Erech Lechem. And he says, the Maskan, you can't be Mekel. The get pasha is pretty strict on this and says, because we have a Machlekes Rishonim, everything is a problem. From beginning to end. You have a suffix, it's a problem. You have Vadai Pasul, a problem by a Shliach. Vadai Nevet, also a problem by a Shliach. And he says the same suffix you have by V'yoydich law, you have by Tizgaresh. Because when you say, the Gemara had a suffix by V'yoydich law. What's a Ravina suffix? Deliver it to her. What does deliver it to her mean? To give it, she should get divorced. Shetizgaresh, boy, same thing. Also, she should get divorced. So you're not going to start saying now that the Gemara had, if you would have added 2 more words, it would have been perfect. Everything would have been clear. No, it's the logic. The question remains a question. The suffix remains a suffix, whether when you have another party which is bringing the get, is there also shlichusam for the sefer and the edim or not, regardless of what it is, because it could be v'yoydech lashet is garish boy. Fine, it's the same shliach. You have the same shaila if the get was given to the shliach. What happens afterwards? The Mechaber says that you have to be nimlach bebal, right? You have to ask the Baal before when it was given nimtza pasul bottle. You have to ask the husband again. The Get Pasha Sifkot Nid Gimel says that obviously this is only if he didn't tell them ad mea gitin to write up to 100 gitin. So he says, if he tells them they could write 100 gittin, hey kosher, the whole nusach that today we use, then even if it's given to a shliach, it's fine. They can still write. You can still write a new one when it's nimtza pasul, not by nevad. Nimtza pasul. By nimtza pasul, because his lashon is lashon is mea גיטין, and she kosher, b'chsiva, v'nesina, everything else, then it's fine. And he says the same thing is in Tumas Yesharim, the same thing is in Marash Dam, Simen Kuf Ayin. And Sifkot Yudal, he comes to another nusach. What happens if he says they should write a get?
I don't understand. What's the chiddush? What's the chiddush if you say Ad Mea Gitin? Gemara says like
No, he adds more to Ad Mea Gitin. When it's given to a shliach, he says Ad Mea Gitin. He says when you have to ask the husband. He says if the husband says the nusach a get Ad Mea Gitin that she echot kosher bechsiva benesina everything, then even if it's given to a shliach and it's found to be possible afterwards, you don't have the suffix. Rava didn't have a suffix then. The mechaber did have a suffix. He says the mechaber suffix, whether you could write a new get or not when it was given to a shliach when nimtza posel, is only when originally the husband did not say write 100 gittin until one is kosher in the giving also. But if he says it's kosher in the giving, you can for sure write a new one. In Zivkot Yudal, he says if the husband says write a get kosher below shum pikpuk, below pikpukim, and give it to a shliach, and they gave a get to the shliach, and then you found that it's possible, also you can write a new one. Yeah, because it says get kosher below pikpuk. But here it is a pikpuk. But he tells you a very important nekuda. If it became possible in the hands of the shliach, then you have a problem. Why? Because they gave a get kosher b'lei pikpuk to the shliach, and then the shliach messed it up for whatever reason. It became possible, whether because he put it into his suitcase or whatever it is, and then or into his carry-on, and then the sandwich dripped in it, and everything got messed up, or whatever it is, or a ink bottle popped. You have no idea, and you can't see the get. The get became possible. It became possible by the shliach. So then it was given a get kosher, below shum pikpuk was given to the shliach, and then if they gave another get, safek megureshes. Obviously, according to the Rambam. La halacha, the get poshet says that even though the ikr is like shittas Rambam, and you're still machmer in every direction. Teres גיטין, this means this is a get poshet. Teres גיטין, Sifkot Neches Biurim says the ikr is like the Rambam, not like Rashi.
Oh, he says the ikr is like Rashi?
Who? Get poshet says the ikr is like the Rambam, and we're still machmer both ways, because machlikas rishonim. Teres גיטין says the ikr is like the mechaber, not like the Rambam. The ikr is like the Rambam, not like Rashi.
And you're not
You're not machmer both ways. No, you only follow Shita of Rambam, Shita of the Mechaber. Now, I did mention it last year. I'm going to go through it a little bit more. The Shas Teshuvos Chavatzelas Hasharoin, Tanyona Simenayin Tes, a get which was written and signed, and they made a shliach. Everything was good. And the shliach, I mentioned it last time, and the shliach was sent through the mail. The shliach sent it to another shliach through the mail, and it got lost. And the Rav said you could write a whole new get. And over there he said the nusach was, because he said Alas was medarf, it included that they could write Alas was medarf. You could write a new get, you could send a new get, you could do whatever needs to be done. Now he asked me, why am I mentioning all these things to you? Because each one of these Rishonim and each one of these shittas, the Chavetz Hashem is much later, but the Rishonim, that's how when you're going to look at the Seder HaGet, you're going to see the Seder HaGet that is today used in Bati Din includes in it all these nekudas. As the generations went by, a few more words were added, a few more things were added, even though it's a standard nusach which was translated. But the Kavnaki added certain, in one place, Kavnaki added the mashal that the Eidei Chsimir should also be the Eidem al Mesiras HaGet when it's given, when it's asked. Why? Just to avoid certain problems. That maybe if they're going to be, if the whole minui was Kisvu v'chismu atem Eidai, and then the wife comes, and the husband's going to give her the get in her hands, and he didn't appoint him to be Eidem Mesirah. Does appointment of Eidem work without could Eidem work without appointing them as Eidem? So it's an example, not connected to the Simon. So these things, when the Seder HaGet became formalized by the Maramri, it included all the issues that could come up. And since then, the only Isafa which I found is only this one line from the Kavnoki, which got accepted by everyone. And with this, we conclude Siman Kuf Chav Beis. Who? No. So the Shon was 150 years ago. Maram Ri is a couple hundred years ago.
So without,
No, we don't do that. We don't do that. Okay, with that we finish Siman Kuf Chav Beis. We'll move on to Siman Kuf Chav Gimel next year. Hashem.